The Judeo-Christian monotheistic deity is really an anthropomorphic distillation of early pantheistic deifications of natural phenomena, whereas more soteriological concepts like Yeshua are of a more post-Platonic construct. What the hell did any of that just mean? Have you ever heard me talk like that? Do you ever wonder why I don't? I have some more academic friends who've asked me that, and frankly, there's a really good reason. When I was in my late teens and I was considering going into seminary, and of course realized that there was no Christian denomination that would possibly take me, because even the Universalists, or rather the Unitarians, would probably have thought I was a little too far out for them. Then, when I got into college, I really wanted to get a philosophy degree and become a college philosophy professor. And after reading enough philosophy, or should I say, more modern academic philosophy and Christian apologist theology, I really started coming to the opinion that it didn't have anything to do with real life. See, those kinds of people are not trying to be uppity when they use this nomenclature, this jargon, these different ways of saying all these concepts. What they're really trying to do is just say what they mean, believe it or not. I know some people probably hear that sort of thing and go, oh, they're just trying to sound smart. Well, the truth is, when you start talking about some of these things, there's just no other way to put it. And they have to come up with these other terms for things. But the deeper I got into it, I started realizing that not only were you separating yourself from normal people, because the average person couldn't understand what you were talking about, but in doing so, you were also separating yourself from what I consider to be practical philosophy. Philosophy that really has something to do with what you and I experience in real life. And if you can't communicate it to a normal, regular person, what's the point? You start reading a lot of these papers that are written by philosophy professors, and they wind up just being these highly academic arguments that they pitch back and forth at each other that probably wouldn't make any sense to you. They don't even make any sense to me. And I used to read them all the time. To me, when you're trying to get across any type of a worldview, even something as broad as omnism, you have to be able to put it in simple, easy to understand terms. Now, I know that not everything I say is easy to understand, if for no other reason than because it's in my head, and anytime you try to put anything into words that's in your head, it's going to be somewhat invalid the moment it passes your lips, because language is just very simply limited, and there's no way to ever truly get out what's in your mind. And the best we can do is say things that hopefully trigger in other people's minds what you're really trying to say. But that said, I really feel for myself that if you don't limit yourself to a certain nomenclature, to a certain vocabulary, then you've already kind of missed the point. I mean, it's interesting. I certainly have nothing against academic discussions, high academic puzzle discussions, and I will often find myself kind of getting drawn into them. But for purposes of this show, and in my opinion, purposes of just practical reality, you really have to limit yourself. And I don't just mean that because you're trying to talk to normal people. It's also because you're trying to limit your own thought processes to things that actually make sense, to things that are actually useful, and not just talking about vague, lofty concepts, which eventually you find may not have a whole lot to do with regular everyday life. I very much found the exact same problem when it came to Christian apologists that wound up trying to prove God in all these lofty ways that, for one thing, only made sense to academics and only made sense to people that they were never going to prove that to anyway. In fact, why would you want to try to prove religion? It's a matter of faith, right? Well, anyway, My point is, if I ever get off the track and start talking in some weird ways, I do apologize. I usually do try to keep it to at least something that's relatively real. I'm the Urban Omnist, hopefully communicating, or at least as best I can. And guys, please don't forget to support us as much as possible by clicking subscribe, liking us on Facebook and Twitter, and please, 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 please send me those questions right at this address. Thank you very much. Again, I'm the Urban Omnist.